Hello developers, and welcome to PHP Developers TV, your home for everything you need to know to be a knowledgeable PHP developer. I'm your host, Scott Keck-Warren. Virtual machines are one of the core technologies that have improved our lives as developers for the better. Before virtual machines were common, it wasn't unheard of to purchase a new server for thousands of dollars, and then host the server in a data center for hundreds of dollars a month. This process could take weeks or even months to set up a new server, and God help us if we had to get quotes. Now we can cheaply and effortlessly rent a virtual machine to get ourselves started. In this video, we'll discuss what a virtual machine is and some advantages and disadvantages of using them. What is a virtual machine? A virtual machine is essentially a file that a special piece of software, known as a hypervisor, uses to create a process on a computer that behaves like another computer. The hypervisor treats computer resources, CPU, memory, and storage, as a pool of resources that can quickly and easily be allocated to new or existing virtual machines. Hypervisors allow us to run multiple virtual machines on the same computer to maximize the utilization of the physical hardware. When a virtual machine is running and an instruction is issued that requires physical resources, the hypervisor will schedule the request. This allows the virtual machines hosted on the same system to access the shared pool of physical resources. There are several hypervisors that we can choose from, but some of the more popular options are Xend, Linux KVM, Microsoft's hypervisor, VMware, and VirtualBox. We recommend VirtualBox to get started as it has several features that we need as developers, is free, runs under most operating systems, and is easy to get started with. A couple of definitions. The physical machine that the hypervisor is installed on is known as the host machine, host computer, or just host. The virtual machines that use the host machine's resources can be known as the guest computer or simply the guest. Virtualization is the act of creating a virtual version of a physical resource. This can be an entire computer as well as storage and networking components. Types of hypervisors. There are two different types of hypervisors that we may encounter. Type 1 hypervisors are installed directly on the bare metal of their physical resources. Because there are few layers between the hardware and the virtual machine, the performance overhead of virtualization in a Type 1 hypervisor is small. This is because the hypervisor can schedule the virtual machines against the physical hardware much more efficiently. The downside to this type is that we have to dedicate hardware for its use. VMware's ESXi is an example of a Type 1 hypervisor. Type 2 hypervisors are hosted inside of an operating system. This type of hypervisor requires the virtual machine's resources to be scheduled against the operating system, which then executes them against the physical hardware. This additional layer causes a small to moderate performance hit, so it's important to keep this in mind. Examples of a Type 2 hypervisor are VirtualBox and VMware Workstation. Type 1 hypervisors should be used for production workloads as we're going to want the additional performance. Type 2 hypervisors are ideal for development as they can be used alongside our editors and browser. Benefits of using a virtual machine. Due to the extra layer of abstraction, it's possible to mix and match operating systems by running a Windows virtual machine inside a Linux operating system or a Linux virtual machine on Mac OS. There are even some hypervisors, like QEMU, designed to run different architectures, which will allow us to use software applications and operating systems written for different CPU architectures. If we weren't using virtualization, we would have to purchase a physical server for each of our workloads. Virtualization allows us to consolidate our computing resources, which allows us to reduce space and maintenance costs. It's also easier for us to go on and rent the computing resources from providers like DigitalOcean or Amazon Web Services when we don't need a lot of them. Disadvantages of using a virtual machine. Because there is at least one layer of abstraction between our virtual machine's workload and the physical resources it's using, there will always be at least a small performance hit. In cases where this loss of performance is unacceptable, virtualization is a poor choice. In these cases, it's best to purchase a dedicated computer for the workload. There is a limit to the number of virtual machines a single host can handle, and we must monitor any system that has multiple virtual machines. The risk we run is that because the hypervisor abstracts the physical hardware away from the guest operating system, it's possible to oversubscribe the physical resources of the host computer. For example, we might have 8 gigabytes of physical RAM, but we can allocate 4 virtual machines with 4 gigabytes each. When we do this, we must make sure the virtual machines aren't using the total 16 gigabytes we've assigned. If this happens, it will cause performance problems for all 4 virtual machines as they're forced to use a swap file. Try it out. With the advent of VirtualBox, it is easy to try out virtual machine technology for yourself. If you want to try it out with a production workload, you can get a $100 credit for DigitalOcean using our affiliate link below. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel if you want more content about virtual machines, virtualization, and other topics related to PHP development. You can also follow us on Twitter at PHPDevsTV. If you have questions related to the PHP ecosystem that you would like us to answer in future videos, please ask them in the comments below and we'll add them to our list.